going to do that right. I just started it. And then when we go to our question and answer part, to probably protect and, people, make them feel a little more safe in the environment, then we'll stop the recording.
Maureen, I'll prompt you to stop it if you forget.
Thank you.
I always forget.
Same.
I will. I can imagine I would forget that. So
cool. All right. So it's 7:05. I think it's time to finally dive in.
Okay.
So I'm sure most of the people on the screen have seen my name now at this point, between all the emails I send about all the fun stuff we have going on. But now you can put a face to a name if you haven't yet before. I'm Steph Powell, our assistant AD for fitness and recreation. And a good portion of what I do involves our campus wellness programming as well. And it's been an interesting question that I've been fielding, over the past week or two, of how I got to this point with this topic, because I'm only, 37 and I'm young. But it happened vicariously, actually, through a faculty member who had sent me, he started a conversation in a faculty discussion listserv email about the Inside Higher Ed article that came out. And she was just like, hey, can we maybe put this on the radar and have some sort of wellness event around it? And throwing out the idea of doing one of those noontime lunch talks. But, Maureen and I talked about it, whether she would, be interested, and she obviously certainly was. And how do we make this best accessible? So the big thing was taking it out of the workday and making it this evening time, not super committed, spreading it out over 6 weeks, just 3 sessions, but hopefully can cover a lot of ground. So we're excited to, bring this to you guys. So I'm more than excited to hear what Maureen has to say and share with all of us this evening. So I will turn this over to her.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
All right, I'm going to share my screen here. This is what I want to do. Let's see. Here we go. So menopause is having a moment. It's kind of everywhere. There's a lot of news out there. There's a lot of articles written about where we are with menopause. So as Steph said, this is a hot topic, and I'm happy to be here to help shed some light on what it is and how it works and how it affects all of us. Actually, every woman that is lucky enough to live to the age of 40 to 45 will experience menopause. So it's a thing. One of the things I do as a nurse coach, I'm really about the whole person, mind, body, and soul. So I'd actually like to start tonight's event with a quiet, mindfulness exercise. So if you'll indulge me, it's hopefully you'll benefit. I know I will, because my heart's pounding out of my chest. So I'm going to try to calm myself down and get in this moment. And I'm going to ask you to join me in just a quick mindfulness. So let's just sit in our seats, put our feet on the ground, cast our eyes down or close them, and slowly come to an awareness of our breath as we breathe in and breathe out. And let's leave the busyness of the day that we just had behind us, and let's draw our attention inward, relaxing our face, dropping our jaw, dropping our shoulders, feeling that seat beneath us as we breathe. Breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. And again, in through the nose and out through the mouth. And let's be intentional about this hour. It's meant to share knowledge, to gain insight, to experience support and build community around this phase of life that we're not lucky enough to live to experience. And so let's show some gratitude for the self-care that we're giving ourselves in this time. Slowly breathing in and breathing out. And one last deep breath in and exhale out. And when you're ready, just open our eyes and join me. So welcome. My name is Maureen Hughes. I've been a registered nurse for 36 years. I'm going to shout it. I should be proud of it. Sometimes I say it and I don't know who's talking, but 36 years. And most recently, I did work at Hamilton College in the health center. In the past year, I have done extensive training around being a nurse coach, which is a registered nurse that has gone through additional training and then sat for a board exam to become certified in coaching. So I'm about wellness and coaching. So I was excited about this moment that Steph gave me to sort of share my knowledge and provide some support. Let's start with a little humor, can we, ladies? So I saw this and it cracked me up because we've all been there on that. Maybe some of us haven't been, but I have, sitting in that lovely gown where you're so exposed and so vulnerable and just wanting some help to basically make it all go away. So I love a little humor, and that's where we're starting. Tonight's agenda, this is where we're starting from today. It's our starting point. We're going to do an overview of the female reproductive system because that is the basis and the primary function of our hormones that affect our menopause. And because I'm not sure everyone's knowledge base is pretty generic and straightforward, but we're going to talk about hormones and the response in menopause, symptoms and management, and questions and answers and discussions at the end. I would ask that if you have questions or comments that you save them to the end, because I'm not really good at staying on track if I get sidelined by questions. So moving forward, the next two sessions are going to be driven by a questionnaire that I will send out tonight to you all that you'll fill out and send back to me as to what you're looking for, what you need, how I can support you, and what we can create together as a community. So you will get that, and then that will drive the next two sessions. So menopause, people, is like a marching band. I am all about analogies, and this is such a complex subject with so many parts that are moving. The human body, the female body, is amazing. And when one thing is off or goes awry, if that tuba player turns to the left and he's supposed to be turning to the right, we've all can imagine how this marching band, which is so highly synced, will just sort of become unraveled. And so that is what the female body is like in my eyes. So here we go. We have perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. Perimenopause encompasses that time from when we first experience a symptom that is related to menopause. So a hot flash, a missed period, mood swings, difficulty sleeping, agitation, elevated stress level when things that typically didn't stress us. The interesting thing about perimenopause is you can become symptomatic even prior to the irregularity of your period developing. And I'll show you some, we'll talk about that further. But it can last anywhere from 4 to 7 years, up to 10 years, like anything. The journey of menopause is as unique as each and every one of us menstrual cycle is. So it's important to remember that some people experience a lot of symptoms, some people sail through, some people, the symptoms become inhibitive to their daily life. So it can last, usually starts early 40s. Menopause, average age is 51, and it is defined as 12 months without a period. So when you get to 365 days without a period, you are in postmenopause. And it is every year after that, you are postmenopausal. Menopause is truly a moment, and then you are menopause. So here we go, all about the hormones. I know that this is how I felt a whole lot during my perimenopausal period. And yet you're so thick in the weeds of childcare and maybe parent care and work that you're not even aware that it could be your hormones making you feel like you're losing your mind. So here is estrogen. What is estrogen? estrogen is our happy hormone. It's the hormone responsible for the development of our sexual organs, the regulation of the female reproductive system. It's also spelled estrogen. I just thought I'd let you know that. So when you see that, if you're looking things up, that's the European way of spelling it. And you'll see that a lot. But it's the happy hormone. It's made from the developing follicle or the egg in your ovary. So it's produced in your ovaries and it sends signals out throughout your body. There's 3 types of estrogen. Estradiol is the drum major of estrogens. It is the most potent. It is the most responsible for our reproductive years. It is responsible for our moods. It is responsible for our libido or our sex drive. It boosts the neurotransmitters of serotonin and dopamine. And it also increases our vaginal secretions and the elasticity of our vaginal wall that makes sex more enjoyable. And if I will show you a chart, but it makes sense, all of this, the peak level of estradiol is when we are most fertile, which makes sense. We should be in our best mood with our highest sex drive so that we're open and to sex. Because if this is what the primary goal of all these hormones is reproduction, remember that. So that's estradiol. Estriol is the second kind of estrogen called E3, and that is mostly present during pregnancy to maintain the pregnancy and promote a healthy placenta and uterine lining at fertilization, and then the pregnancy, the placenta. And then the last is the E1 or estrone. This is the weakest. It's a very mild form. And this is what's left at the end of when we hit menopause. This is the small amount that can help with our bone health. This is why if a hysterectomy is needed, they try to save an ovary so that they can, have at least something. Here are some of the effects of estrogen on our body that affect our brain. We talked about the moods. It affects our heart and liver. Obviously, it's secreted from the ovaries. It helps with the uterus. It helps with bone strength. The second pairing of estrogen is progesterone. So progesterone's main role is to prepare the endometrium or the uterine lining for the implant of a fertilized egg. And that will peak after ovulation. Our uterine lining thickens, our progesterone increases, and progesterone is the calming nerve. And it holds and maintains pregnancies. It decreases inflammation. It calms our nervous system. It supports thyroid function. This is the hormone that keeps our mood swings even keel, okay? And it has a short lifespan within us in our menstrual cycle. And as soon as an egg is not fertilized or implanted, it sloughs and we have menses. So here are some of the functions and other roles of progesterone in our body. I told you about the calming effects. It supports circulatory vigor. It assists with liver and kidney health. It boosts reproduction function. And then the effects, it can be an anti-inflammatory. It can lower our blood pressure. It reduces the tenderness of our breast, and it reduces cyst formation, which is why sometimes our breasts become more cystic, more dense after menopause. And it protects the vagina from infection. When we have progesterone elevated, which will continue to elevate during pregnancy, that vaginal mucus is more protective to prevent any infection of the growing pregnancy. Some other players in our reproductive cycle are the luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormone, FSH. So these two come from a gland in the brain called the pituitary gland. It's a small, teeny tiny size of a pea gland, but my gosh, is it powerful, and does it wield a lot of influence on a lot of different systems in our bodies, one of which is this luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating. These hormones will be released, and they send a message to the ovaries to release a mature egg. The thing about the female body is that we are born with a finite number of eggs. It's like hundreds of thousands and not all of them fully mature. But by the time we're 40, we're down to a 3% reserve. So that is why when there's not enough valid, healthy eggs to be released, that's when our estrogen starts dropping and our luteinizing hormone isn't firing because it's not getting the signal to the pituitary gland. So these charts I loved, and mostly because up here, this is the pituitary hormones, the LH is in blue, the FSH is in red. They both peak at ovulation time. Ovulation comes at day 14 and a 28-day cycle. That is the average cycle length. But as I said earlier, everyone's menopausal or everyone's period cycle is different. They range from 21 to 35 days. 28 days is the average. So at the point that you ovulate, which is usually about the halfway point of your cycle, you have that elevation of the luteinizing and the follicle stimulating to tell that ovary to release the egg. When the egg is released at ovulation, our estrogen level is at its peak. Why? Because we want to promote a good mood, a high sex drive, a pleasurable experience for sex to promote a possible fertilized egg. After that ovulation occurs, it comes out of the ovary, it travels through the fallopian tube, it sends a message. Once that, there's a corpus luteum, which is what releases the egg into the fallopian tube, and when that corpus luteum triggers, that tells the progesterone to elevate. And when the progesterone elevates, our uterine lining thickens, preparing for the implantation of a fertilized egg. If that implantation doesn't happen, the egg travels through, the uterine lining breaks down, and we have our period. So that's the menstrual cycle in a nutshell. I tried to dumb it down and make it as simple and understanding as possible, but I think it's important to understand these hormones and their roles so that we can understand the stage of perimenopause and menopause. I found this chart and I loved it. And I loved it because of two reasons. One, here's puberty. So if estradiol is our drum major running the show, she gets crazy during puberty, right? There's a lot of firing. We have our ovaries developing. They're trying to release their eggs. They're trying to maintain or establish a cycle. We have mood swings. If anyone has lived in the house of a pubescent girl, it's an experience. We are highs and lows because estradiol is trying to figure it out. Once we settle into our cycle and we cruise through puberty, these are our reproductive years, also called premenopause. I tried to leave that out because we can't decide to call it premenopause at age 15. That's just a little harsh, but it is considered premenopause. So these are our reproductive years. Progesterone is at an elevated level and then slowly declines. Now, of course, we still have the ups and lows of our cycle, but overall, it starts to decline. And as it declines and our egg production diminishes, as we get to the end of our egg production, this drum major, she starts in, she's working hard, she's up and down. And this is what's sending crazy signals to our pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland is doing everything it can to either release luteinizing hormones, but it's not there because our hormones are starting to diminish. So this is, we can get hot flashes, we get mood swings, we get agitation. We can have all of these symptoms before we've missed a period. So it's important to know that because some people think that they are really struggling mentally, and they are, and they may be, but they're not relating it to menopause because they haven't missed a period yet. So first we'll miss a period, we'll miss a month, then it might be 2 to 3 months, and slowly and gradually until it gets to 12 months. And by then our drum major, she's all done, and we become much more even keel in our post-menopausal years. But this red line, these are the symptoms, and they elevate as our hormones are diminishing. And these are some of the things we can experience. because our hormones are so intertwined with our overall body functions, a lot of which we have not even, we don't fully understand. There's a lot of theories and a lot of hypotheses, but not a lot. We need more. We need more research and more trials. So here's systemically some of the things that can happen. We have weight gain, we have heavy night sweats, palpitations. Oprah Winfrey talks about going to 5 different doctors. Finally, doctor number 5 said, the prior doctors were telling her she had to lose weight, she had to do stress relief, stress modification, etc. The 5th doctor said, tell me about your periods. And she said, well, I'm starting to skip them. And he said, these palpitations are heart related, are menopause related. Put her on some hormone replacement therapy and her life changed. They were gone. So these are real things that we experience. Some people experience a lot of them. The statistics show that about 80% of women will experience hot flashes. Some of them, as I said, extensive. There's anxiety, there's poor memory, inability to concentrate, the vaginal dryness, painful intercourse. These are all things that women complain about. The last thing I wanted to talk about in the hormone is cortisol, which is a hormone that your adrenal glands, which are located over your kidneys, produce. These are the stress hormones. This is your fight or flight. We've heard about this. We see or feel or perceive stress or danger, and we go into the fight or flight. Cortisol is released. Cortisol regulates our stress response metabolism, our glucose level. It suppresses inflammation, and it helps control our sleep-wake cycle. So we see where we're going with this. If we have elevated stress, which we may because our progesterone, our calming hormone, is diminishing, it affects our sleep cycle. This is an important, I don't know what to call it, phenomenon, something that, this is an important response system in our body. It's called the HPA axis and stress. And so the HPA axis is H for hypothalamus, P for pituitary, A for adrenal. So in your brain, you have the hypothalamus and you have the pituitary gland. And the hypothalamus, if it senses stress, it comes from your senses. You hear it, you see it, you feel it, you taste it. Your senses are sending something to your hypothalamus that there's danger, real or perceived, and it releases the corticotropin releasing hormone that triggers the pituitary gland to send this ACTH down to the adrenal gland, and the adrenal gland releases the cortisol, fight or flight, raises our blood pressure, increases our heart rate, increases our body temperature, and we go into that stress mode. The important thing to remember is that it can be a perceived stress. So if we are not able to engage our parasympathetic nervous system, so this is the sympathetic nervous system, this is our fight or flight, this is our safety, these are important things that we have in our body. But if we are constantly triggering it with things that it doesn't need to be triggered, if we're freaking out about being 5 minutes late and our stress levels up here for 5 minutes late, our body doesn't realize that it doesn't mean a bear is chasing us down. It just sees the one stress. So that negative feedback will affect that pituitary gland, that stress that we feel. It's just a cycle. So I just wanted to kind of make you aware of that HPA axis, because it's starting to get some treads in the ground, like when it comes to women's health. So what do we do about these symptoms that we feel, that we get to experience? Do we wear layers? Do we cry whenever we want? Like, how do we survive menopause? And there's things we can do that are under our control. And I'm going to touch on them briefly. These are the 5 things that are within our control. First is nutrition. There are lots. If we can raise awareness about what we're eating and if, in fact, it's related to our symptoms. Let's say, for example, this is a true story. I realized that in September and October, I seem to get a lot more hot flashes. In the last several years, this is what I've experienced. Now, why would this be? It makes no sense to me. But then if you know me and you know that it's candy corn season, Maureen can't say no to a candy corn. She never found a candy pumpkin or a candy corn that didn't belong in her mouth. She eats them fast and furious. And so I know that sugar will definitely affect my inability to maintain temperature. So nutrition is one. Also, along with nutrition, there are ways to mimic estrogen in our body, and those are called phytoestrogens. And there's lots of very good plant-based foods that we can eat that will help give us the same or a similar effect of estrogen in our body. The second is exercise. Exercise is never, ever contraindicated for anything ever. Movement is the key. It allows us to control our stress. It gives us time to clear our head. It helps for cardiovascular health. It helps with our metabolism. I can go on and on about the benefits of exercise. They're recommending 150 minutes a week. That's 30 minutes, 5 times a week. I would say cardio, and I would really push strength or resistance training to build muscles, because that's what's going to give us good bone health. Next is sleep. Okay, yeah, we'd love to sleep, but menopause isn't letting us sleep. This doesn't make sense. We need to rest. We need to promote good rest. We need to do good sleep hygiene, and we can do a deep dive into that. There's this thing. Oh, where are my notes? Here it is. 10-3-2-1-0. So 10 hours from bedtime, that's your last caffeine. 3 hours from bedtime, no more food, no more alcohol. Because that digestive tract is on a circadian rhythm as well. So if we eat a big meal late, our digestive tract is not going to metabolize it. It can't keep, because it starts to shut down during the nighttime hours. And also, it just doesn't feel good. We talk about it. We've eaten too much too late. 2 hours before bedtime, shut off the work. No more work. Start to bring your awareness, your calmness, start to engage that. 1 hour, they say turn off your screens, no blue light. So, and then the 0 is 0 times you'll need to hit snooze. And that's the goal, right? To not hit that snooze button in the morning and to wake up. Because if we're well rested, we can handle a lot of things a whole lot better. Stress reduction, mindfulness, giving yourself time to just decompress, 20 minutes a day. And I know, and I wished I'd known this 15 years ago, how 20 minutes a day would have made me a better mother, a better partner, a better employee, a better friend. You need to fill your cup. So find joy, whatever your 20 minutes is, whether it's a walk in silence, whether it's a meditation, whether it's, reading a book, or just sitting in a dark room that's locked and nobody can get into. Whatever your mode is, I implore you to find a way to give it to yourself. It helps restore you. And then lastly, I knew I was going to do that. Lastly, is pharmacology and medicine. There are treatments for menopause. We have hormone replacement treatment. There are many different avenues for this. There's patches, there's creams, there's vaginal inserts, depending on this. This is a nuanced conversation with your doctor. They are safe as long as there's a whole lot of noise and buzz around what's safe and what's not, and we can talk about that tonight. But there is pharmacology. In addition, they are finding a whole lot of benefit from SSRIs. So your selective serotonin reuptakes, your Prozac, your Effexor, these medications that are typically known as antidepressants or anti-anxieties, they have been incredibly effective in managing hot flashes. So there are medical ways that we don't need to suffer through this. The days of suffering and silence are over. We stand on the shoulders of the women that came before us in that department. And we are a base for the shoulder. Our shoulders are for the next generation, that this menopause moment will produce more research, more treatments that are effective and safe, and a greater knowledge and understanding of the process of menopause. So I'm back to my marching band. Let's keep it all in order. Let's keep it all in sync. Let's keep all these moving parts going. We may mix up a little bit. We may turn the wrong way, but we can get back on track. You know, knowledge and support and community is power. And you can navigate anything if you understand what's going on, if you have support around it, and if there's community. So that's hopefully what we're building here. I need to do my citations. Cleveland Clinic is fantastic. It puts things very simply. Menopause.org, that's also known as the North American Menopause Society, which is, this is their awareness day. So Harvard Health is a great one. I subscribe to that. I get their newsletter. It's phenomenal. And then NIH. I use this because some of their articles were research driven, and this is the research wing of NIH, the NICHD. And then my visuals, I came from Balanced Health Naturally and ZRT Lab. I just needed to give everybody their shout outs. And then lastly, I really want to leave this with you, is that menopause should not be it's hard. I am not dismissing the symptoms. I am not dismissing the change of life. But I love Suzanne Summers, and I am sad to see her go. She passed away, I think, Sunday. She was a force, you know, and I read about her and I saw this quote that she said, and I just thought it makes sense. This is our time now to be strong, to be confident, to be liberated. It should be a liberating time. So that is all the things of menopause for tonight that I have, but I'm certainly really open to questions and comments, and I'm not sure what I should do. How do I make this all screen again? I'm going to stop share with Nancy. What do I do? Oh, you got to unmute. Oh, there we go. Unmute yourself.
Okay, so stop share
Thank you.
and then stop recording.
Oh, thank you for that. I did record this. That's right.